Hello, chess friends, back again with another installment, continuing the saga on the road to 2300. And today, well, on the 25th, we paired up against a 2300 rated opponent named Marcius from Poland. And Marcius was actually someone I played, so I already started all the moves once before when we were both under 2100 not too long ago. So it was really nice to see my opponent break into the 2300s. And we chatted a bit, especially if you look here on the chat bot, I mean the chat section, catching up a bit and discuss some of the chess and, you know, wishing him all the best on his journey. Um, because we spoke about and told me some of his plans with the chess. But yeah, so we played a couple of games. I played a few before playing against Marcius. I lost one and then I won two. So I was at 22 elo, dropped down to like 22-14, won a couple. And then before this match, I was back to 22-25. So let's see what happened. So here in this game, I started with 1 to d4. I had the white pieces. My opponent went d5. I go c4, queen's gambit. My opponent accepts the queen's gambit, so here I go knight c3. And typically here you get the a6 ideas. So let's say a6, knight f3. If you want to be adventurous and keep your pawn, b5. Very thematic. You could strike with a4, and a4 you get b4, knight b1, or knight a2, sorry. This is very thematic. And then e6, and the game continues maybe with e3 ideas. Attacking the bishop attacking the pawn, and you get a position where it's relatively equal. Black doesn't know hold on to this pawn as much. So, for instance, you go knight f6 here. Yes, you could maybe go c5 if you like, but you just take and queens will be traded off. And we're quite in a balancing game. b3, you just go knight back to c3, and you are bound to win the c4 pawn again after knight f6, for instance. You just go bishop takes. The game continues, bishop takes, but um, quite equal. So white actually stands a bit better. But let's go back to the game. We're at knight c3. My opponent goes e5 here. Not as common, but I just go e3. Of course, we could take, and if we take, there is the queen takes, as mentioned, just a different setup. Knight takes, and black is slightly better here. This is forced. Okay, you could go back knight to c3, knight c6, and maybe e3 or e4. Yeah, it takes, and the game continues. But here, instead of that, I went e3, takes. My opponent goes a6. So the move order is already a bit mixed up here. The a6 should have been played earlier already instead of this e5. Then if you're going for the slide as we discussed, I go bishop takes, knight f6, knight f3, b5, and just simply bishop back to b3. And here white's enjoying already a nice advantage, a lot of space here, can castle quickly. And also this f7 pawn is vulnerable. As you can see, as I mentioned, with knight going to g5 could exert a lot of pressure on f7 because we have the bishop eyeing there as well. So here my opponent goes bishop to b7, which is a massive blunder because here knight to g5 is just outright winning. You cannot stop this at all. The best tries you got here for black is to go queen to e7 with check, bishop to e3, but this is still threatened. You go b4 trying to tickle the knight, not a problem. You take with check, king to d8, queen to b3. What do you do next, right? Bishop takes g2. These are some weird lines to find and very difficult as well. Just knight to d5, you're really putting pressure on. Look at this. Well, you think, okay, I can capture here. Well, not really. You just take back with the bishop, you're attacking this and that. If he takes here, well, you get in this, you get that rook on a8 because you're checking the king on d8 here, and well, it is just bad for black there. So after bishop b7, I missed knight g5. I only saw it after I castled, right? Okay, yes, we are still better, but not by much now. Bishop to e7. Here I go bishop to f4. Bishop g5 was better. Castles. So I'm trying a similar idea, but maybe this way. But of course, it's not the same at all. You cannot get this knight to d5 right now, let alone to b5. Rook to e1, just developing. Knight to d7, knight b to d7. And here we were chatting a lot in the chat, as I mentioned, right? And if you look at the clock situation, like I have 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes, he has 5.5 minutes. So that also contributed to us not playing as well, I must say. I mean, yeah, he even says we both weren't focused. Yeah, because we were talking a lot. So we both missed chances, especially white, as you'll see. Knight b to d7, and now I go knight g5 with ideas of thinking, okay, yeah, yeah, and maybe yeah, but it doesn't do much. Like knight to e6 in this regard, attacking the queen, because you can just go queen c8 and then there's no attacks. Knight to b6, then just really nicely getting all their pieces, defending d5, nice. So I don't have any thrusts here, possibilities of pushing a pawn or a knight. But I go bishop to e5, thinking, okay, maybe I can exert some pressure here in the long run on this file. I almost said profile, on this file. Bishop to e5, we get knight f to d5. And here I go for some trades. This was a bit inaccurate because, okay, what he's trying to do is to obviously go there for trades here, but it's also indicating that he wants to trade this to get my knight off, because the knight goes to g5 with also the ideas of queen h5. Of course, not threatening a mate or anything, but definitely putting on some pressure, hoping that my opponent can maybe see ghosts. So I go knight takes, knight on d5, knight takes, and then knight to e4, just to slightly confuse my opponent and not to trade off more pieces. My opponent makes a mistake by going bishop to f6. I capture, knight takes f6 with check, knight takes, and now rook to c1. The thing is, it's a powerful move because now this pawn is attacked twice. The bishop's there as well as the rook attacking. And yeah, I thought, okay, my opponent will maybe play c6 and the game just continues. Okay, but my opponent played rook c8 as it advertised or as advocated for by the engine. But I was actually happier to see this. I wouldn't have known really. If you went c6 here, yeah, okay, I get some play with queen f3, of course, but the plans aren't as clear because now after rook c8, well, I go queen d2 and I want to break in on g5. Maybe not the most accurate move because now I get c5, but now I get this queen, or queen f4 rather, not queen g5, queen f4, try and exert some pressure here, and more so the bishop going to d6 ideas, right? So after queen f4, my opponent misses the chance to go c4 and lock my bishop out again. Because if here now I have to go back to d1, even c2, but more advised would be d1 to maybe swing to f3 and watch this bishop here. But okay, he doesn't go for c4, he goes knight to d5 and blunders. The reason why this is blunder is because I get queen to g3 threatening mate. So I'll show you. Queen to g3 threatening mate, he goes f6. Well, now I go bishop to d6, hitting that rook. So now if we go here, for instance, well, the powerful move your position is that I get c takes d, and this bishop is never moving away from d6, and this pawn is so strong here, right? Shows you what one pawn can do in advanced, like this in an advanced position, really helping the bishop, clamping down black space to the point where this advantage is nearly a full rook's worth, right? Because this bishop's also opening up. And also, this knight's pawn, it cannot move away. This bishop does a great job in restricting defense from this knight, because this queen cannot defend the knight, as the bishop is blocking the queen defense. And now, of course, moves like does rook to e5 doesn't work. You would just lose a rook for free. Let's say you go there. You just take here. If you're breaking in either with your rook or your queen, either or would be perfectly fine. And this is still hanging. So you go king to h8. Well, you're cutting off that way with c6. If you wanted to, you could trade off. You are up material, of course. Takes, 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 bishop takes. This is perfectly fine. You are winning that endgame. So all of this happens. I capture instead with the bishop instead of going queen to g3. He goes queen to d5, and now he's threatening a checkmate himself. So I go queen to g3, blocking mate and threatening mate of my own. But now this f6 idea doesn't work, of course, because firstly, there's no knight to really do some funny tricks with, and that light square bishop is traded off. So the fewer pieces there are on the board, the less possibility you have to create tactics. This is a prime example of that, right? So f6, bishop to d6 is played, then rook to e8. I go for this line, but now the difference again is there's no knight on d5, there's no bishop on b3, and the queen's out on d8 to do any sort of trouble. So now it's dead drawn. Queen takes a2. I go for h4, and now I have 44 seconds left, 45 seconds. My opponent has a minute, and a lot of madness happens now. So after h4, my opponent goes bishop to c6. Really crazy that he found that move. I found it so strange. But okay, it makes sense to stop this. So if he goes a5, maybe I would have some chances. I don't know. But okay. He finds bishop c6. I go h5, try and advance here and try to soften his structure. He goes queen back to d5, not threatening a mate, probably just bringing his queen back to centralize. But I go further with h6, and here I probe him into making a mistake with g6. I go rook c to d1, the enemy is saying go rook e to d1, probably to hold on to both rooks and not to trade off more material, because then it's more closer to a draw. Especially if you move all the pieces off the board here now. Rooks, 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 queen, queen, and bishop, bishop. Okay, if it's black's move here, it would be a draw because king f7, c6, king d7, c7, and yeah, you catch it. But if it's white move in this pawn endgame, c7, king f7, c6, king f7, c7, king to e7, c8, white would be winning. But if it was black in this endgame to move for just pawns, it's draw. So that's what I'm saying. It would objectively be drawn. So I go rook c to d, trades off, only move. And now he goes queen to d2, another blunder. And here, if you find queen to b3, you are winning. Because you'd be cutting this king off. It'd have to go, well, if it goes there, you're just breaking in, right? Threatening there. If he comes here, well, you get rook to d1, I imagine. Not so. Or not immediately. But maybe even this is fine. Okay, it's more drawn. But it's easy to play with white in such an endgame, I would prefer, especially with the time situation, right? So here you could maybe drop the bishop to maybe to f. Would I want to go to f3? Because you could take here, but you're breaking in that way, and you got to pass the h pawn. So this doesn't happen though. After that, the engineer is advocating for queen to e3. Perhaps these ideas here of let's say here and queen trade, for example, right? a5, you're breaking in on the 7th rank, and it's a lot of trouble, right? g5, you're probably gonna throw in a check, yes. King to h8, and yeah. So this king would be very weak, and this rook would be very powerful on the 7th. To the point where you could even give up a pawn here. That's the common saying that you normally you give up a pawn to get your activity on the 7th rank, as is the case with this rook. So this didn't happen though. After these trades, queen to d2, I go rook to e7 immediately. So now my opponent actually has a draw, queen to c1, king to h2, and taking on h6. I didn't see this because of the time situation. Look, he's got 24 seconds, I have 30. He goes back to d5 for like a third time in the game. I go rook to uh, g7 with a check, king to h8, and now I just gotta find f3 to stop this idea so that I can move my queen around. But I hang my rook, guys. Rook to f7 is totally losing because you just take here, it's over. There's no way you're stopping it, right? This doesn't work. There's no checks, nothing's happening. But my opponent totally misses it, and here I play the move rook to e7, probing my opponent to take the rook and move off the 8th rank, and I go bishop to e7. Now my opponent has to be careful here, because if he doesn't play accurately, I have a checkmate in one move, which is queen to b8. My opponent misses it and goes queen to e4, thinking, okay, maybe he's threatening there and checking me. But he misses it, and I end up giving a check on b8. Only move is now bishop to e8, followed by checkmate. So it was in this position of move 34 that my opponent resigned the game. Because now if you go here, there's nothing to stop mate, right? King can't go there, the h6 pawn. So all in all, a very topsy-turvy game, a lot of fun. I felt for him. I mean, he played relatively well. He defended quite well. I didn't take my chances in this from the opening already. If you look there, like on move 8, I had +4 advantage almost. And I blundered here in the end. But that's chess, eh? And it has to be played. And some days you're lucky, some days you are learning. So yeah, guys, thank you for tuning in, man. I do appreciate it. And if you're enjoying the content, please do consider um, liking, commenting, and subbing. It will mean a lot for the channel. And we'll be back again for the next video very soon. Thanks for tuning in, and do drop comments if you found it insightful. Yeah. Okay. Take care, guys. Bye.